What's a situation or condition that nobody understands until they're in it? Chronic pain and mental illness such as depression or anxiety, for example. Being homeless. Being in an emotionally and financially abusive marriage or other relationship. If anyone else whom I cared about was going through what I went through throughout my marriage, I would have told them to run. I didn't realize how messed up my situation was until I finally broke free of it. I can't believe I put up with what I put up with for as long as I put up with it. Tinnitus. People don't understand when you explain to them it's quieter when the TV is on or music if playing than if it's dead quiet. So many. But one that speaks to me is anxiety. The word gets used a lot. And feeling anxious is something that all people experience on a normative level. That normative anxiety which healthy people experience is way too easily and often conflated with anxiety on a mental illness level. It's apples and oranges and absolutely awful. Depression. I think people think it's just feeling a little sad, but it's so physical as well. Apart from that narcissistic abuse, it's often so subtle and can take years to recover from. Chronic pain. Employers, friends, family members and even some doctors and nurses don't usually get it. How truly liberating financial freedom is to your daily life. Death. I thought I understood it till I had to watch it happen to people I love. PTSD. Addiction. First-hand experience depression, professional experience spinal cord injury. Losing your good health and livelihood. We are all one disaster away from illness, disability, homelessness, and so on. No one really prepares. People walk around with a very "it won't happen to me" mentality. Don't tempt fate. Being in an emotionally abusive relationship with a parent, or in my case, step-parent. My stepmom was awful to me. It didn't start out all that bad. But over time she got worse and worse. And I felt so trapped. Fuck that bitch. Coming home and finding out you have been the victim of a burglary, where so many irreplaceable family things were stolen. Grief, losing someone very close to you. A fight. I've been in a bunch when I was younger and it always sucks. It's unpredictable. It hurts. And you could die. An abusive relationship. Everyone is always like, why don't you just call the police? Why don't you just leave? Completely discounting the long periods or emotional abuse manipulation that gets you there in the first place. Nobody just starts out beating you. It's often a slow burn process, and once you get to that place, you're already a shell of a person and feel trapped. Panic attack. Grief. Everyone reacts differently. It feels like being underwater and no one can tell. Rape. The unexpected death of a sibling and you're now an only child. Insomnia. I've been diagnosed officially, and it's not the same as a poor night of sleep or being generally tired. Multiple days on barely any sleep really messes you up mentally and physically. One poor night is fine. When I'm on day 3 of terrible sleep, my mental and physical health takes a swan dive. Poverty. Living paycheck to paycheck, each wage. The feeling you have using a debit card to pay, hoping that you have enough funds in your account to pay. Getting sued. Watching someone you love slowly die. Divorce. Everyone has an opinion, but I promise your whole outlook on it changes when you are actually experiencing it. I got married when I was 21 and then divorced by 25. I remember my ex telling everyone I cheated. I didn't. He just couldn't admit I divorced him because he was emotionally and mentally abusive. Of course, I lived in the South USA and in a small town, so majority of people believed it unless they really knew me. I learned very quickly to no longer judge divorces or marital issues. There are always two sides to the story. Mental illness. Having ADHD or any other mental health condition, people will label you lazy, distracted, gifted, irresponsible, aloof, being late, etc. Any label that will negate the actual very much physiological condition. But if I had diabetes even caused by unhealthy diet, people wouldn't bat an eye about your insulin. But because I have ADHD and anxiety, people stigmatize you for taking an effective medicine. Or worse, they'll gift you a book about listening or advise you on creating habits or having a planner. As if that's the root of the problem. Domestic violence. The amount of people saying, "Why didn't you just leave?" or "Why would you put up with that?" are lucky for not knowing how difficult it is. Being an adoptee, and please shut the fuck up with the comparison of the show This Is Us. It's not like that at all. Being harmed by medical treatments that others use no problem. You get gaslit from all angles. There is very little research in this area, and it's harder to get doctors to take you seriously and get assistance from programs. It's just so isolating. Disappointed. Chronic depression and IBS. No one can fully understand IBS really unless you have gone through it. It's so much more than a sensitive stomach. Cancer. We aren't heroic. And we don't know how we do it either. The only other choice is to give up and die, but how is that fair to our families? Don't say we're brave. We aren't brave. We are just trying very hard to survive while also trying equally hard not to literally shit our pants in public. I'm not sure why I wrote that in present tense, because I'm in remission. I guess because it never truly goes away. Death. My parents died, and the only people who understood or would follow up with me were those who had similar deaths of their family friends. Losing a parent, or both parents. No more I'll just ask mom or dad what I should do. Depression. People think it's just a bad mood and shrug it off, thinking it can be overcome by discipline and willpower. Violence. People spend a lot of time questioning people's actions post-violent encounter but have never been in a violent interaction. Action movies and TV have warped the understanding a ton. Chronic fatigue syndrome. It's the kind of fatigue you get with the flu or chemo every day of your life. And that's just one symptom. People will tell you I'm tired too, as though they understand, implying that you just don't have their resilience. They assume things that work for tiredness, e.g., exercise, will work for your fatigue, which is actually exacerbated by exertion. You're horribly sick and disabled and basically condemned for it. Doctors often won't believe or treat you. Continuing the decades of institutional neglect. It's an appalling illness, and people don't even believe you're really sick. Just lazy. Caring for a parent who is doing at-home hospice. Feeling guilty for feeling relieved when it was over. The funeral. Having to sell the house my dad built for his family when I was 5. Having to prepare the house to be sold. Clearing out all of their possessions and having to throw away a heartbreaking amount of their things because nobody would take it for free. Going NC with your siblings because of the bickering. Realizing I can't go back. Toxic relationships. Some people out there would say to just leave or something like that and not understand how hard it is, since in most if not all situations, the bad guy manipulates the victim into staying because of the bond that the two built. Hopefully I'm making sense. Living your entire life under a total siege. Having your neighborhood bombed. Losing your whole family all at once. Having to be treated for your injuries on a hospital floor with no anesthesia. Losing a baby to stillbirth or miscarriage. I lost my baby to a heart problem when I was 7 months pregnant with her back in 2007. Shooting up dope. Addiction is one thing, and it's extremely hard to understand if you have not lived it. But shooting up stuff is a whole other level.